Hello. Welcome to the Rangers Rabble. This is the Rabble Sunday. This is usually a members only pod for the Sunday, but we've opened it up today just because of everything going on. I felt like a few more people would probably want their say. So if you're not a member, do become a member because you get to get this every single Sunday, not just the odd occasion. But yeah, open to everyone today. And we're joined by Brian, Kerr, and Scott. Brian, how are you doing?
I wish I could say it was okay, but no, not particularly.
Kerr, what about yourself?
I'm fine. I just feel Scottish would put on some glasses because we're missing a pair of specs the other night, Scotty.
Aye.
There's 3 years with specs on and you've not got yours.
I'll get the Jeffrey Dahmer's one.
There we go.
Dear.
Oh no!
They are Jeffrey Dahmer.
If they hadn't caught him, Scott, that's what he looked like now. I think.
I think it would be, yeah.
How you doing, Scotty?
I'm a lot better now than I was a couple of hours ago.
Cool. I mean, there's plenty to talk about. Obviously, Martin did say he was going to send me the link to his poll that he did. He wanted me to read out for everyone. He was really, really happy with his poll, so I better read it out as well. But before that, Brian. So on Saturday, Rangers hosted Livingston, and despite all the troubles and the turmoils at the club, I think we all sort of expected a comfortable win, especially at home. For all Gio's failings and that, the domestic record's been fine. It's been okay. But what we were treated to was a 1-1 draw, and one that we scraped at that. What were your thoughts on the game itself, Brian?
Well, funnily enough, I stayed till the 44th minute and I left the ground. And it's probably the first time I've ever left the ground before full time because I was frankly disgusted with what I was seeing and I just simply had enough. It's, as I say, one of the first times I've left the ground early. Certainly before even the first half was even finished. And I was just simply scunnered. I was watching a game of football and I had no idea of the shape. I had no idea of anything. And I snapped and I had enough. And I walked at the ground before halftime. And I've never done that before. But that's what happened to me on Saturday. I couldn't take it anymore. And the best laugh was it felt like the Loudon was even busier than Ibrox because it was heaving. But honestly, Saturday just drove me to a new level of low, and I'm sorry to say it, but that's what happened. It was just shameful, the performance on Saturday. It was so bad.
Yeah, no, it's hard to disagree. Mel's are still no Martin. Martin couldn't be on tonight because he's told his missus that she has to watch a movie with him, so they're watching that at the moment. Just on the sort of segue of what Brian's saying there, then Ken and how the fans feel, and everyone in the comments, if you want to sort of chuck how you're feeling right now about the board and Gio, I think a lot of people are sort of who needs to go first, Gio or Ross Wilson. So get your thoughts in on that. But Martin posted up a vote on Twitter. Care. Do you have faith in the current Rangers board to act in the best interests of the club? There's a small sample size. It's about 500 votes, but 90% said no. 90% of it was a small sample size, but 90% of people thinking that they don't have the best interests of the club. Are you alongside that? Are you with that vote, or do you think something different?
I just think the club in general don't really have any direction of where it's going. I feel on the park and off the park, and I feel it's strange because you hear people saying, "Remember where we were." To me, that's in the past. We can't keep letting back. I mean, it it's pointless looking back. We've seen it and done it, and yeah, it's a part of history now. But I don't want to say, well, this was what happened 10 years ago, 12 years ago. To me, it's been and done. Since we've won the league, we've stood still. We've actually regressed, and I feel the problems are off the park as well as on the park. And I feel the only one just now you can really make any judgment on is probably the manager, and it's not going to impact the board. It might not even impact Ross Wilson, because I feel if one of them, Wilson's only going to go if the board feel he goes, or Wilson gets offered a job somewhere else and he walks. But Gio is probably the one that will get changed first. But I don't feel that'll happen either just now. I feel he might have this season. I don't feel they'll pull the plug. That's not the way Rangers do things, and even this board, I don't feel they'll do things this way. I think they made a bit of money off the run the last couple of seasons in Europe and stuff like that. And I just feel like the board, I've not got as much interest in the football side as we have, obviously. Ross Wilson, the trust, because he's not going to waste money. And he does what he's told, basically. And Gio's just there as, well, I don't know why he's here. I never wanted to be in the first place, but I don't know why he's here. But I feel if anything does happen, Gio will be the man that will be going first, but I don't think it'll happen. I think it would take a lot more what's happening just now for them to pull the plug in Gio. So I feel it's going to be the end of the season.
Yeah, and Curry Munch has put up a question that I'm going to bring up in a minute because I wanted to go with Brian with it. But first, Scotty, it's hard to disagree with any of that, really. But is it a case of we get Gio out in the short term and then the board have got to rethink everything long term, or do you think one without the other isn't going to help anything?
Just touching on the poll, just to address that first, to say it's a really difficult one. Do we think that the board are acting in the best interest of the club? I think they are, because I think they have to. I just don't think they're aligned to what the fans want, and the priorities are different. Now, what's in the best interest of the football team is perhaps the more pressing and appropriate question, because at the moment it feels like we are in a helicopter watching the Titanic sink, and we could do something and rescue, but we're not. We're just going to see how it unfolds in case it might start floating again. It's bordering on negligence, and the way I see it in Gio's tenure is we've all come to the conclusion that this isn't happening and this isn't working. So how long do we actually give it before we pull the plug? Is he now? I mean, I said this like a couple of weeks ago. Is he a game away from a disaster? A game away from losing his job? Well, yeah, but like, which game is it? We just need to pick one. In terms of what needs to happen, is the next question is: do we trust the board to make the correct decision? And it's almost unanimous when you look at the opinions that Ross Wilson needs to go as well as Gio, because he's almost proving himself to be out of his depth in this role. Not to say the previous role at Southampton he wasn't suited to, because I think he was, but when you've got complete autonomy over the football division of Rangers, you need that little bit extra and that little bit quality. And I don't think he's actually got that. I don't think he's got the contacts. And serious questions need to be asked in terms of, if you look at the transition from Gerrard to Gio, what was the interview process? What was actually said in Gio's interview in terms of style of football and style of play to ensure the continuity? Because that is missing. That is gone. That is, we've gone from a very clear identity. If you explained an alien from outer space how we were playing football, it'd be very, very clear and easy to explain. And now we've gone from that to, well, I don't know. Gio doesn't know. You guys don't know. If anyone in the comments can tell me, well, I haven't got a bloody Scooby-Doo. So it's really clear that the direction that we need to go in. Now, as I said, the next question is, who in the board is capable of making these decisions and finding the right people to bring them in? And that is now another huge concern, as well as when do we actually just pull the plug and move forward? Because you talk about short term and long term. You don't want to look across the city, but you've seen how quick fortunes can turn around just by making a couple of good decisions with conviction. We are not doing that. We do not. Our board do not back managers. Ross Wilson does not back managers, because for all of Gio's faults, I don't think any of these players are any of the ones that he wants, that suits his style. The real basic question is like, why haven't we signed any Dutch players? That's his bread and butter. And I'm pretty confident that he would have gone to Ross Wilson and the board and said, right, I want to get these Dutch guys in because A, I know them, I know how they play football, and they are also my trusted generals on the park. And he doesn't have that. So something needs to change. And actually, you can talk yourself into the argument that it's a full-on cleanse.
Yeah, but I'm going to just switch gears just really quickly, Ron, so I'm going to stay with you after this as well. Just because Curry Munch put this, you were in the ground, so I wanted to know what your thoughts were. When you saw the starting 11 come out yesterday, how confident were you in it? You know, there's not a great deal of choice we can make at the moment, but seeing the likes of Scott Arfield line up again after a number of poor performances, what were your thoughts in the ground when you saw that? Brian, sorry.
Scott Arfield, right wing? No. 34-year-old, 35? No. There was, I mean, yes, we're limited, but I think somebody pointed out on Twitter today that we've 34-year-old Scott Arfield starting right wing, yet we had 3 wingers sitting on the bench. I mean, I just, there's so many things disconnected. There's so many things wrong. And it's hard to even put your finger on where to start. There's just, I mean, as the comment I put up just earlier, you know, where we were, somebody says, look where we were 12 years ago, and then look where we were 12 months ago. Yeah. But I mean, I still argue the point. When we were on top, we didn't put the foot down and keep ourselves on top. We stood still. We didn't progress. We didn't sort of push our advantage and, you know, smother them. We just stood still and thought, oh well, we're back. We won the league by 20 odd points, whatever. Or we're much better than them, and we dismissed it, and we slagged them off for years for doing that, and yet we fell into the same trap. And that's the thing that really annoys me. We were firmly on top, way ahead of them, and then within months we lost the grip because they decided to, you know, spend and, you know, improve their squad, whereas we decided to keep most of the majority of the team. Whereas there's an argument for saying we were very sentimental. We kept a lot of players longer than we should have. We should have sold a lot of players before they left. Sorry, we should have sold a lot of players even now. You know, Kent, Morelos. You know, Leo offered 16 million for Kent. Christ, would bite your hand off for that now. You know, Kent was getting touted down at Leeds. You know, we didn't strike while the iron was hot. We didn't sell players when they were at their peak. And I'm afraid that's starting to bite us right in the backside now. And it's horrible, but that's the position we're in.
Yeah, and just staying with that then, Brian, does that sort of stat that everyone puts up when they say, oh, just remember where we were, and you know, does that frustrate you that when people bring up that argument? Because for me it's a case of, you know, I get how low we went as a club, but we got back to the top of the mountain, and I think once we get there, we don't need to look back. Even when it gets worse again, we're always going to go through difficult times, but we don't look that far back as wow, you know, look at our fortunes then to where they are now. We should be grateful, because I don't remember, you know, when we were struggling at any point in time that people saying, well, don't forget the 80s, don't forget the early 80s and that when we were struggling. No one ever said that. It only seems to be brought up now because we did come from the depths again. So does that frustrate you, seeing people instead of maybe the club trying to take responsibility for what's happened, and like you said, us not putting our foot down and pulling away. It's almost like it's giving them another excuse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Scotty's going to jump in. What do you want to say?
I was basically just going to say, actually, if you actually want to be really not even necessarily that hypercritical, you could say, due to the mistakes of this board, we are actually well behind the curve of where we should have been, considering the trajectory that we're on, because of more fuck ups and more mismanagement and bad appointments and bad signings. It's a theme under this tenure. We just to jump in, we do not need groundbreaking tactics or a structure to beat Livingston at home. Those 11 guys individually have enough about them to go ahead and win the game. So that tells me there is something holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And just back to you then, Brian. I mean, I thought Williams brought up a good point here that he's fed up remembering where we were. He wants to have new memories now.
100%. Everybody can remember where we were. Christ, I can remember my dad starting to ask me, support Rangers in the mid-80s. I was like, why would I support Rangers, Dad? They're crap. And they were absolutely dire. But because it was my dad's team, I followed them.
You picked Hamburg instead.
Well, kind of, yeah. But, that's what happened. It's easy to go back to when good times were good, because that's very easy. Problem is the boy, the comment was there. We're now, but we should have been light years ahead of them. We should have been miles ahead of them, because where they were and where we were progressing. Problem is, we got very sentimental. We didn't sell players when they were at their peak when we should have. I'll say that again. It's we should have been like they should have been probably 5 years ago. They should have been light years ahead of us, but they got complacent as well. Problem is, we thought 55 was our Everest. Now, I personally think a lot of players thought winning that league was the be all and end all. Well, at our club, that's not the way. You've got to build. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep progressing. You've got to keep getting better. But a lot of players, I think, just thought that was their Everest. And I'm sorry, I don't think a lot of them could see past that. And it's horrible to say that. It's shameful to say that. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair one. And Kev, I'm just going to bring out a few of the comments. Just on the manager front, I get the argument. People always say, "Well, who would you have? Who would you have if we got rid of Jay?" And of course, we've touched on it before that is the board, and that is Ross Wilson's job to go out and find the next guy. That before they told us, like Scotty said, that the continuity, that's what we were supposed to have when we got the next guy. Gio clearly doesn't play that way. Fine, old fans told us he doesn't play that way, so not sure what he said in his interview. But say we did, I always see tons of names come into the chat all the time about who we should go and get. And obviously I've got opinions. I'm sure all you guys have got opinions. Curry Munch wants me to bring this one up. And I know a few people laughed at it in the past, right, with David Martindale. Is it absolutely outrageous when you think about in the past, Rangers have gone into the Scottish Premiership and have gone and plucked managers from there, like an Alex McLeish, and they've delivered the goods?
It's not outrageous, but I don't see it happening. David Martindale's done really well at Livingston. I mean, he's done everything at Livingston to paint the dressing rooms, to pick the team, do you know that way? And he's done really well. He's probably put himself in a market for jobs somewhere else, but I just don't see it happening at us. But some of the names I don't see happening either. I mean, people are mentioning like Rafa Benitez, just some kind of a high-profile older managers who've been around the circuit, and I know you yourself like Nutson, but I think he's out of our range as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
A few people say Michael Beale, but he's probably out of our range as well. And it's not because we're a big club and we can entice, but it's one, bringing it to Scotland, and two, the money involved. Even if you get a manager who's at a club, you've got to pay money towards the club, and you've got to bring in the backroom staff, give him a wage, and then pay off the folk you've got here already. So I've seen somebody mention a 1 year rolling deal, and that's how we should be giving managers. Shouldn't we give them a 2-3 years deal? Just 1 year rolling. And that means they're protected with a year money if they get sacked, but we're also protected instead of paying big money to all them and their staff if they don't succeed. But I mean, Kevin Thompson's name mentions, I don't see it happen. I don't think Kevin Thompson's ready for Rangers' job. I don't see him coming from Kiel to Hearts, not really been in and about and then straight to Rangers. I don't see it happening. Maybe as an assistant or a coach, but no straight as a manager. I don't know. It's not my choice. I mean, I've told you my couple of choices I feel, but I think we need a young manager, a dynamic manager. But I would go for somebody British, somebody that knows the football here. I'm not against a foreign manager, but a few times it's backfired on us, and I don't want to keep going down that route. I would bring somebody in to get the passion back in the team, the feeling back in the squad, and the fans, and then move on for But we need, I think, another manager will come in. I think a lot of these players will get a rise in it, and you see better of them. But like Brian mentioned, probably about half a dozen or more of these players have been here too long, and some should have been sold, but some should have been given new contracts either.
I mean, Scott, on the point of Martindale, right? Is this not? I'm being devil's advocate here. Is this not a classic case of us being a bit snobbery as far as Martindale? You know, he's not from a big club. You know, he's not a wholesale manager. You know,
just stop you there before getting into sentimentality. He's got a criminal record. He's not a Rangers class. He's not happening.
Well, yeah. I was just asking purely from his football manager ability.
Doesn't matter.
I just don't see it happening, Brian. I mean, the board could.
I'm just being devil's advocate. I wasn't saying it was going to happen.
The board could go and tell us something different. I just don't see it happening. I feel the appointment could be from left field. I know Celtic went for Postecoglou and he's done well there so far, but I just feel going for somebody for the UK, somebody that knows about British football. I kind of done. I know we got Steven Gerrard. He never really had a background in football because he was like a manager at the youth setup, but he was a good player, which doesn't always make you a good manager either, to be fair. But he brought passion back in, and Steven Gerrard done a lot off the park as well, and he probably had a lot more power than Gio's got. But Gio just doesn't give you that effect when he's even speaking. Gerrard came across and he had passion, and he only won one trophy, and it's not a lot. He should have won more, and he probably maybe would have get a sack if Aston Villa never came in for him. But Gio to me was never a right pick for the kickoff, and I know Walter mentioned it in the comments, and I've said it for day one. He was never my choice. He's here now, so you back him, but he was never my choice. Scotty said, I don't know what he sees in an interview, but it's probably one of these things. They put interviews up, but Gio was always going to get it, no matter who they interviewed. I think it was just ex-Rangers player, just take him.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one to, and it's not something I always like to get the guys' opinions on, Scotty, because Gio is still in a job, so it does feel a bit unfair. But I think you can sort of, without going specifically maybe into names, you can say that the next Rangers manager has to be someone with attacking intent in their philosophy, actually have a philosophy, have a style of play that we can impose on teams. But do you go along with Kerr, wanting a young and progressive manager for the future?
Yes and no. Not no, but if every club thought the same, guys like Carlo Ancelotti wouldn't have a job. So it's who's available at the time and who's the best fit for the job, who can actually work the resources and work with the board. And it works both ways, whether it's in the football team. If you're young enough, if you're good enough, then you're old enough, no matter what age you are. But if you're like 36, 37 and you're still a quality footballer, then you've got a place in the football team. It doesn't. I think it'd be very ageist to turn around and go, just because you're an old guy, you're set in your ways and you don't have any fresh ideas. I think that there's quality managers out there that actually prove their worth time and time again, and it's just about who's available. When you throw names around that are young, I think for us guys who are young, we're very familiar with them, so we can't help but get a bit excited about, oh, he might show something that we don't already know. If you look at Kevin Thompson, he speaks really, really well, and you can't help but think, oh well, if he speaks really well to me, then he must speak really well to the players, and he must know exactly what he's talking about. But in the same way, like an economist can tell you what's currently happening, they can't tell you the future. They can tell you what's happened in the past, and that's the role of a commentator, and that's the role of a guy like Kevin Thompson. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to come up with the next pioneering way of playing football. So we've got to be careful not to fall into that trap. In terms of looking at what we can do is actually look at a manager's current philosophy and how they play football. And sometimes attacking football can be completely reckless. But what we do know in Scotland is, even, and we've said this before time and time again, even with the current 11 players that we've got on the pitch, regardless of tactics, all they need is a push in the right direction with a bit of energy and a bit of excitement, and they should be able to wipe the floor with anyone in this league.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Brian, I just want to bring this one up as well. I did see another good question from Curry Much that I will try to go back to. Where was it? This one. Can we afford to gamble on and now I know we did it with Gerrard, and by all means, I mean, Gerrard came with a very good backroom staff as well. So we did have that. I think with Gerrard as well, he's someone that he was always going to be a massive leader for the dressing room. Yeah. And maybe one of the reasons I think personally Dave King's gambled on Gerrard is his pull factor. The players that Gerrard could probably get for us that other managers maybe couldn't. Do you think we could do that again, or do you think with the position we're in at the moment, we have to go for something proven?
Well, even when we did hire Gerrard, it took, was it 2 or 3 seasons to get right? So it's an awful thing to say. I really don't think we can afford to go unproven now. It's got to be some. As you say, it's awful speaking about a manager's job when he's not even out of the job. But I mean, you'd have to think they can't just go for another Gerrard-esque sort of manager, because what's that? Another 2 or 3 years down the line before any success, because he'll want his own players in, his own style, his own backroom stuff. That's. I mean, obviously if Gio went, then obviously all his staff's going to go. So we'd have to. I mean, even the logistics, the money wise of getting rid of Gio is going to be costly anyway. I think I said in a tweet earlier, the AGM is going to be an absolute riot this year, because I think the money. I think there's going to be a lot of revelations in it that a lot of fans didn't realise. We're not as flush as we all think we should. We're adding X millions to this and X millions to that, and the Europa League run and the Champions League this, ticket sales.
Brian, we're not. It's all there. Like, it is literally all there. It may not have hit the bank account, but it's all there.
Yeah.
I think that's what Brian means.
But I'm just kind of worried when the AGM comes around. There's going to be a few revelations that come out that's going to shock a few people, and I would have to say they have to go with somebody proven right now, because there's no way we can go down the road of experimental coach or manager right now. Not at this, especially with the possible rebuild that we're going to have, because there's lots of guys out of contract in the summer. Goodness knows how many of the new manager would want to keep. A lot of them are aging, mid-30s, beyond late 30s. So it's going to be a hell of a job for the new guy to come in, if there is a new guy, and it has to be somebody experienced. There's no possible way it can be somebody that's a novice like Gerrard. No way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. And Kay, I'm going to give you a bit of a tougher question. I did just see someone. Sorry, someone said Xabi Alonso. He's just gone to Leverkusen, so you'd have no hope.
He's just going to Germany.
Yeah, you'd have no hope of getting him. So Sean Dyche mentioned a little bit. As I said, there's plenty of the good options out there. In terms of the current management being in place, I know for a fact that Rangers are very aware of fans and social media and what fans think in general. Their eyes are on the prize in terms of that. They do watch things. They do know what's going on. Whether they act on that is another question. But when you even see the club partners of the families, the people like Four Lads and Heart and Hand, you see these guys stuff that they were putting on Twitter yesterday that Gio's got to go. That they must know that the fans are pretty unanimous at this point. What reason do you think that the board currently have for keeping Gio in his position, other than what Brian's about to say, other than the cash it would take to get rid of him? Do you think it's as simple as that?
It could be a money situation. Maybe whoever they get mark the over. They might have a kind of basic list of names that they could maybe want in place. I'm not saying that can change, but just in case anything happens, so maybe kind of get whoever they want. They'll probably go for somebody who's on a job, to be honest with you, because that's probably the cheapest way to go. You're not having to buy him out of a contract to give him one. But to be honest with you, Gio should have went after the Celtic game. He shouldn't be here, but that's by y'all. But he should have went after the Celtic game, because since then it's not been great. You can see the players only running through a brick wall for him. They're getting by, squeaking by at times. They were not playing good football. They're just doing enough in games. And whereas you look, I mean, I was at Aberdeen when I was game yesterday. And Aberdeen, when they won yesterday at the end, they were celebrating with each other. The man, Goodwin came on the park, and they were all celebrating, jumping about him. And they only beat Motherwell. But there's a camaraderie there. We've not got that at Rangers. There's nothing there. They're not fighting for each other. They're not backing each other up. The manager's totally not involved with the players and vice versa. And we're not a unit. There's no cohesion there. It's just like there's a player. I mean, you seen it yesterday. He brings on Matondo at half time and takes him off again. I mean, and then you've got people saying that Kent shouldn't be playing. I watched the game this morning. I don't know why, but I watched it this morning. I've seen it yesterday. I've seen us play worse, being honest with you. But we were very predictable. We were putting balls into the box that Livingston were going to eat up, because that's the way they were defending. We were very predictable, especially down the left with Borna and with Kent. We weren't doing anything different. I was just swinging the ball in. There was not a lot of movement, to be fair. There wasn't a lot of bodies in the box, and that's probably because you get Stephen Davis and Arfield there. But the only time we get a goal off was when Kent hit the byline and cut it back. Something slightly different. But they weren't making the Livingston defenders think. They weren't playing balls in between. Everything was just the same. And I think that comes for the manager, and that comes for the players try to do different things, but it's like they don't want to try different things because they're happy. Because I think the players feel he's not going to be here much longer. And I think majority of players think I'm going to be here longer than the manager. So I don't know. There's just not a lot is giving you hope at the moment watching Rangers. And I feel we need to make the change sooner rather than later. The longer we leave it, the worse it's going to get. And then the season's a write-off if it's not ready, because I've got a funny feeling Aberdeen's going to get something on Saturday, and then when they put it past, I've been looking forward to the semi-final either. But if they change it, like Scotty's mentioned, you get a new manager bounce. Every team kind of gets it, but if some of these players aren't as bad as they're getting criticised for, let's say some of them shouldn't be there, but some of them aren't as bad as getting criticised for, and with a new manager in place, playing a slightly different way, we maybe see some of the players getting a bit of confidence back. But you need to make that change, and it has to be now. And I've none against Gio as a person, but as a manager, he's just not good enough.
Yeah, and on the Matondo point, I've seen someone, I think Paul said in the chat that they were saying that Matondo actually hurt his back, which was the reason he came back off. I'm not sure if that was mentioned in the actual press conference, because it did look a bit strange that he sort of came on and he came straight back off. Last sort of bit on Gio then, Scotty, because obviously there's a few players I want to discuss as well. Is it a worry? Say we have Gio going forward for the time being. Is it a worry? Because every club can have a bad game. We know this. We can have an off game. We've struggled with Livingston under Gerrard. We've struggled with Livingston plenty of times in the past. Is it a worry that in his press conference, David Martindale come out and said, as soon as Rangers start putting crosses in, we know we can deal with that. So we camp the middle of the pitch and we let them put crosses in. and it just didn't change. We just kept trying to put crosses in. I know since Gio's come in, and Gio, we don't know what Gio has for a say in the transfers that come in, but we've become a very small team, I've noticed. So does that worry you that we just relentlessly fired balls into a box with Oberlai and Fitzwater about 6'5" apiece?
Yeah. It's just absolute madness. It was for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, who was a midfielder at Rangers, obviously transitioned to left back later in his career, but still a very influential footballer in very much the setup and the build up and the. If he talks about transitions one more fucking time, and actually display no transitions in this team, my head's going to explode. For this team to have zero idea how to play centrally is a worry. Yes, Cholak is tall, but when the guy is trying to do everything, bearing in mind, like when the going gets tough, you see who really stands out to be counted, and Cholak, thankfully, is one of them. But when he does that, it takes away from where he should be, which is the penalty spot.
Yeah.
When we've got a game plan of get the ball wide and get the ball into the box, I don't have to be a master tactician or to pick the 11 to know that the guys running into the box like Stephen Davis are not going to get on the end of these fucking crosses. And if you've got two big centre backs and Cholak is sandwiched in between the two, they're rubbing their hands. They don't have to be very good. They just need to. In fact, the quality of the crosses was crap as well. We talk about a plan B and whatever. Where was that? It was garbage. It was torture to watch. And he did nothing. He kind of like waved his hands around and thought, just fuck off.
But I've lost the comment, so apologies for who it was. But Brian, so I did see someone, and I see this big
right. There's a comment there that says we've only got one man in the box. Exactly. Why? Whose responsibility of that?
Livingston.
We knew after half an hour for the next hour, this is exactly what we're going to do. What would you have done? It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Tell me what you would have done. I would have brought on another striker. I probably would have brought on a guy that's nicknamed and built like a fucking buffalo. And then if we're going to play that tactic, just play that tactic. He had no idea what to do. Absolutely clueless.
Yeah, no, it was a worry. The comment I was just speaking about, Brian, and as I've seen people bring this up on social media, Gio took us to a European final and he won a cup last season, so maybe we're being a bit harsh. But how do you unpack that? Because if we actually look at the Scottish Cup, yes, he's had to win. You can't take anything away. He's had to win a cup. He's had to beat Celtic to do it in the semi-finals. Fair enough. But we also beat Stirling, Annan, Dundee, and we then beat a Hearts team in the final where, let's be honest, our B team beat them a couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
So, the cup should be something that Rangers, unless they meet Celtic and it goes against us, we should be reaching the final every single season. The European one, you can't argue with it. It was some tremendous performances with seemingly some tactical insight from Gio at times that got us past some of the big teams like Dortmund. But is that for you just something that is? It was something that was fantastic, but it's in the past, and we actually focus on what Gio is doing with the current team as opposed to his past achieve, if you can call it an achievement, by not actually winning. We still finished runners up in that competition. We didn't win it.
Of course it is. We got to the European final weight. That was a marvellous achievement, but I don't fucking reminisce on that. We did well in the 92-93 season when we got near enough the European final. I don't reminisce on that and think, we should go back to that days. I want to progress. I want to go forward. I'm just, it was great, but it happened. It's gone. We've got to move. I'm always hearing people saying, we're a club that never stands still. We're always moving forward. We're always progressing. I don't feel that just now. I just feel we're either standing still and we're walking backwards. If you stand still, you're always told you walk back. You're going backwards. Well, I feel we're walking backwards. We're not even standing still. We're slipping down the hill, and it's nice to remember things that we've done great. But that's done. It's gone. We've got to keep progressing. We've got to keep looking forward. We've got to keep progressing. I get that people like to reminisce on things, but that's fine. But the here and now, we've got to keep progressing. We've got to keep moving forward. We can't keep looking back and thinking, oh, we did this X months ago, or we did this. We've got to keep looking forward. You cannot stand still. If you stand still, you go backwards. Simple as that.
Yep, absolutely. And Care, let's bring this up. Do you think this is a fair point, Care, that last season they perhaps still had the fitness that was left over from the Gerrard sort of management team? Or, you know, we absolutely saw it in the semi-final when Bassey's bombing on in the 100 and whatever minute it was. But do you feel that's a big issue we've got at the moment, that the fitness looks, and it might not be the case, but it looks when we watch the games like it's regressed massively?
The squad fitness is shocking, and injuries is shocking as well. I don't know if that's due to maybe no training as aggressively as maybe they were under Gerrard or not, but we've got so many injuries, but we don't look fit. Other teams seem to be fitter than us, and sometimes no football team is guaranteed to win every week, right? And Rangers are a team like that. We're not guaranteed to win. We have to go out and win the game ourselves. But when we do get beat, you don't mind. I don't mean you don't mind getting beat, but if you get beat and you see yourself putting a performance and you were unlucky and you've ran to the 90th minute and you're still kind of in the game, but you were just unlucky. You don't mind that at times, but it's the way we're getting beat, the way we're losing games, and the Champions League was always going to be a big ask, and we always knew that. And the results in that have been horrendous, and the way we've just turned off. And the Liverpool game at Ibrox was the worst I've seen for a while. Liverpool are a better side than us, there's no doubt in that. And they've got they're just the resources in their squad is just a way above what we'll ever get. But just the manner of getting beat, a draw at half time and losing 7-1 was shocking. But even it's the league, it's worrying me. In the league, we don't look like we can beat anybody. We don't look like we're better than anybody. And even Livingston yesterday, I mean, they knew what Rangers were going to do. We're very, very predictable. We don't change things. The manager doesn't change it. But there's nobody in the park. And I like to have, but as a captain, you have to sometimes take the initiative and say, right, we're going to try this way. I'll take the blunt, take me in the dressing room, but he doesn't either. So somebody mentioned taking the captain's armband off him. And I'm one of these guys. When I used to coach teams, I didn't bother who the captain was because I thought everybody should be a captain in a part. But obviously, youth football is slightly different from professional football. So maybe if you take the captain's armband off him and you give it to somebody else, it might improve his performances. But give it to somebody who maybe get a wee bit more say or maybe be a wee bit more talkative. I don't know who you give it to. Do you give it to Lundstrom? Do you give it to Ben Davis? I don't really know, but give it to somebody different just to take the pressure off a Tav and maybe see what happens there. But I just feel at the moment the players don't know the direction they're going. The manager doesn't know the direction they're going, and neither do the club. And us as fans are going to have to just sit and take it. Obviously, we'll back the team through good and bad. We will complain when it's bad, and we will cheer when it's good. But something needs to happen sooner rather than later this season. Just a write-off.
Yeah, and just a quick one from Megan. She said, any word on when Lowry's back? I believe Lowry played some minutes for the B team at the weekend. So he's well on his way back to hopefully full fitness. We can see him pretty soon. So Scotty, it's going to come right back round to you to finish off on Gio at least. I usually bring these up on when Ross is on, but he goes off for about half an hour as soon as I mention it. So Gio's press conferences, his sort of contradicting tone sometimes, and just the things he says in general, right? But yesterday he said, you know, it wasn't good enough. He held his hands up, come out, it wasn't good enough. I'm not happy. And then he said, we need to play the final 7 minutes like it's the whole game. But do you think he realizes what he's saying in that? Because we played 7 minutes against a team with 10 men and backs to the wall. Like, it's impossible to start a game like that, surely.
No, I think his meaning with the hunger, desire, regardless of 11 men or whatever, the hunger, desire, and the urgency. And if he hasn't actually mentioned to the team before, when you step out onto the park, play like it's your last 10 minutes or play like you're 3-0 down and you have the opportunity. I don't know what terminology or phrasing he would use, but you kind of get the impression that they sit there in the dressing room and he's just like, oh, well, You know, go out, try your best, enjoy yourselves, and see what happens. I don't, you know, I don't get him. I don't see it. Him psyching them up, and like sending them out really pissed off, really angry, going, look, like for instance, on Saturday, you just watched Celtic get a jammy win. Like, fucking just be angry, take your frustrations out of them, hit them hard, get in there, just do whatever you can to score. Just there's zero ruthlessness in this team, and it feels like it stems from the dressing room. Like there's just a meek mentality, sentimentality. We'll go out there and just enjoy ourselves. You know, well, Dutch philosophy. We'll just take our time and keep the zero. Fucking keep the zero. Fuck off.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to see him when he does talk about these things, and as I said before, it's a lot of contradiction in there, Brian. I did see someone bring up in the chat saying that we can sort of end the debate about whether Tav's injured or not, because he himself apparently said he was fine. However, no player is going to come out, apart from Lindstrom on Paddy's podcast, but no player is going to come out in the press, is he, and going to say, no, yeah, I am injured, and Gia's being quite negligent playing me. It's just not going to happen, is it?
No. And I think it was you shared it on the chat first. And I watched it, I thought, he didn't just say that, did he? So I played it back and I was like, he actually just says, oh, I've been injured for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I thought, and you're still playing? I was like, you know, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I thought, well, in some respects, you can see what happened to Morelos last season. He was injured for a long time. He then got injured. I can't remember what game it was. He flogged him for so long. He then went away with Colombia. Then he came back totally injured, never to be seen again until recently. And, you know, so I just thought to myself, this is going to happen again. Tavernier, Lundstrom playing with injuries. He's going to flog them to death. They're going to get bad injuries, and we're not going to see him for months. And I can see history repeating itself again. And you're just thinking to yourself, you know, like Wednesday night against Dundee, for example, you know, we were all asking for, like, you know, Tavernier to get a break, you know, Lundstrom to get a break, you know, various others. Never happened. They played, and you're thinking, I mean, obviously, you know, we only won 1-0, but I mean, at the end of the day, that was the ideal game to give these guys a rest. You know, if you can't rest guys like, yeah, it's only Lundstrom would have come out with it, and I'm quite glad he did, because at least he's actually said what he's thinking and what he's feeling.
Yeah, and that was another one straight. I mean, he said that, and then straight after, Gia said, no, he's fine. Sadiscan is fine. So
Yeah.
apparently, both of them are telling the truth and lying at the same time. Moving away from just completely blaming Gia, because obviously, as we know, it's not just Gia's fault. Maybe his style of management doesn't suit Rangers. It doesn't necessarily mean he's purely a bad manager. He is hamstrung by what's above him, though, isn't he? And mainly that in being Ross Wilson, if we're completely honest.
He is, but he's still got to. Doesn't matter who brings in his players. Some of these players they spend a lot of money on, and they're decent footballers in their own right. But Gio's got to get the best out of them, and he's not getting the best out of them. Doesn't matter if he wants the players brought in or not. Obviously, he's got to say to appoint the positions he wants. I might not have a say on the player as in, they might not get whoever he wants, so they go to somebody else in the list. But he's still got to do better. You can blame Ross Wilson, you can blame Gio. I think the two of them get equal. I blame myself. But I think we've seen it when Gerrard left and he wasn't happy with the way Wilson was doing things. And it's totally different. I know Scotty mentioned Ross Wilson at Southampton, he actually done okay, but the resources he's got at Southampton, the money he's got at Southampton are totally different from the resources he's got at Rangers. Do you know what I mean? So wages wise, transfer fee wise, he's going to have to watch what he's doing, and that's why the board know he's going to be safe, and they'll say, right, we've got this amount to spend, on wages. This amount to spend on transfer fees. If the wages go above that, then your transfer value comes down, and vice versa. So we're probably buying a player under a budget, and I don't know. Gio should have a say. I think he's got a very small say, but I don't think he's got a final say in who comes in. But that's just my opinion. Everybody will have different opinions, but that's just mine.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Just to jump in there. I mean, I've seen loads of people having some issues saying that they're getting lagging. Some say they can't hear us. Some say that it's fine. So I'm really sorry if you can't. If there's any technical difficulties our end. I assume it's all good for you boys, Brian, Scott, Care. Everyone can hear each other.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Most people seem to say it's only lagging, but they're getting the sound. To be fair, Scotty's mic was terrible the other night, so it could be all down to him. But hopefully it sort of sorts yourself back out. Here we go then, Scotty. I'll bring this to you. Call yourselves Rangers fans. Take a moment and listen to yourselves. Playing well, no, but give him to the end of the season. Could be a troll, could very well be a troll, but people do think that at Rangers we don't sack managers willy-nilly. We've only had sort of 15, 16 or whatever it is in the entire history. So do you think that's a fair comment, or do you think in modern football you can't kick the can down the road?
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I think if from my perspective and from what I have seen and what I can see, it's only going one way, and it's better to rip the plaster off than keep picking at the wound. So I don't know what that actually means. That was just a complete nonsense. No
one would have noticed, mate. You could have just.
Oh, do you know what? Just like if someone's seeing something completely different to me, and if someone can see actually in progression rather than regression, then yes, maybe, and perhaps he might turn it around. How long do you give it? Do you give it to the end of the season, and when we're behind them by 25 points and get packed out of every single cup? We've suffered every single humiliation in Europe, and then we go, okay, well, write that off. That's another year wasted. That's more money that myself and every other single Rangers supporter has chucked down the pan just for some weird sentimentality. No, absolutely not for me. Maybe for you, but not for me.
Yeah, Brian. I mean, the positives I think from our fans, that we've not seen any of the Sharks out just yet, despite how bad it's got. How long do you think this goes on before we start seeing real protests? That's what I'm saying. Before it starts getting ugly, not really seems we want to see as Rangers fans before the board think that maybe they do have to act. Is it going to take a bad result with Aberdeen? Is it going to take another hammering from Napoli? What do you think the end point is?
Well, I certainly hope we don't see Sharks, because I don't want to stoop that low. Could it take an absolute doing at Napoli? Possibly. But for me, I don't think it would matter what the Napoli result was. But I think for me, the Aberdeen game next weekend could be a massive one. If that goes south and we don't get maximum points on that, then that could be a big turning point. I would suggest that obviously Napoli midweek is going to be well, you can't butter this up any better than it is. It's going to be a very difficult game to play, and if Napoli really want to turn on the style, it could be a resounding victory for them by a good few. Compounding the Livingston result yesterday, Napoli result midweek, and then a bad result against Aberdeen, the natives could get seriously restless. If they're not even restless now, it could get even worse by next weekend if we don't get a good result against Aberdeen.
Yeah, and Kerr, just sort of, this one's just come to me, so I'm just going to throw it out there. It could be completely wrong and absolutely outrageous. Could the board be thinking, we'll let Gio take the team in Italy because we don't want to sack him, and then we have an absolute pacing out there anyway. Why not keep him in? If he gets a result, fantastic. But we can always, get rid of him after, and then we hit the reset button then, if need be, for the players' confidence.
I think we're going to Italy either way, but I do agree. It doesn't matter if Napoli win 5-0, 6-0, or it's as a draw. I think the Wednesday's not really going to matter. I think it's Aberdeen game, but looking at it, just not as a fan. But if I was Aberdeen and I was coming to Ibrox, I would be very confident. This Rangers team don't really have any confidence. There's no really a very predictable, and they're kind of there for the taking. And I feel this is a time Rangers players have to dig deep. And if Wednesday night, performance-wise, if we go out and we show something, that's great. But if we go out on Saturday and can get a convincing win, it kind of shows as well. Maybe the manager isn't the right fit, but the players are still digging and trying. So I think the players have to kind of step up. Manager might be on a shaky peg, and he probably should be away, in my opinion. But the players have to step up, because either he stays or he goes. A new manager comes in, some of these guys are going to have to play for their jobs. So I think it's time these players stood up and had a good look in the mirror and says to themselves, I'm not as bad as I'm playing. I need to step up here.
Okay, I don't think it actually matters, though, because see when.
But there's pride, Scott, in professional footballers have got a lot of pride.
And I don't doubt for 1 second that these guys are walking onto the pitch going, I'm going to play shit today. But
No, I don't mean that.
But I tell you what will happen is, see in the dressing room on Wednesday, they'll know all about Napoli, and they know how good they are, know how energetic they are, and how much they'll go for the throat. And they'll look around each other in that dressing room and go, we haven't got a fucking Scooby-Doo. What the fuck are we going to do when we step out on that pitch? Yeah. How galling is that? As a footballer, Gio is pretty much going, okay, we'll keep the 0, we'll play with 4 at the back, and we'll do this horseshoe, and then, okay, someone will drop it in, and then, okay, we'll defend a bit more. You're like, this is what it feels like to me. It may not be to everyone else, but this is what it feels like to me. They're then walking out into a massacre.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but sometimes the players are going to have to stand up and just. That's where the captain comes ahead. You've seen at other clubs, the captain comes on and says, right, this is time to try this. I'm not saying it's like player revolt, but the players don't always constantly play bad or get hammered. So the players have to step in. And some will and some won't.
So basically, if I'm reading you right, you basically say, well, Tav needs to go out and pick the fucking tactics and tell the team what to do.
No, not so much pick the tactics, but somebody's going to have to go out and say, we're better than this. We've proved it against Dortmund last season. We've proved it against other sides. We're better than we were playing. But I understand where you're coming from. They're not getting any faith in the manager, and they're maybe fed up playing that way they're playing because it's so predictable and they don't like it. But then he's not always going to be there. Some of them are going to be there longer, and they've got to make a point to say, we're better than this. I don't think there's a lot of backbone in that team, but they've got to make a point to try and do better. We can't keep the way we're going, because it's going to end not very good this season for any of them.
Yeah, James said he's not going to watch the Napoli game because he's not into masochism. Now, someone who I know is into masochism, if it involves anything Italian football-wise, is Scotty. Scotty, on the Napoli game, it's a good link. On the Napoli game, it's not just going there as a team that are low on confidence or not badly managed, but maybe not having an idea of the style they need to play or they need to implement to sort of bring across Gio's ideas. But they're going up against a seriously good outfit, regardless of any of that. Even if we were going as the Rangers of last season that was doing very well in Europe, they're still going against a team that have battered Liverpool, that have battered Ajax. They beat Ajax 6-1 away. It could get messy regardless of, if you have a style or tactic anyway. Does that make it more worrying for you that they were then going into this game without that?
Yeah. Where do you want me to go with this? How do you want me to answer this? Because
I know you're a big Italian football fan. You know, you like your
I'm a big Italy.
trawling the streets of Italy, you know, every other week. So give us an insight into Napoli, Scotty. What are their strengths? You know, what are this team gonna bring to us? Because arguably, for 45 minutes, Rangers probably gave them their best game in this group.
Imagine the way I see it. Imagine Celtic on steroids. That's what we're going to face, and what we're going to have is the same tactics as what we face when we. I missed that.
Very much has just found out about you. That was all.
My dungeon. I thought I kept that to myself. I might as well. Do you know what I mean? Just look, as a Rangers supporter, I watch Rangers games to see Rangers. I couldn't give a toss who they're playing against. It's not what I'm interested in. This is the first time in my life, and this includes getting beat 7-1 at home against Liverpool, countless Celtic defeats or European defeats. This is the first time where I do not expect to have any hope whatsoever. This is the first time I'm going into a game where I'm thinking, why are we even bothering? How about we just take the 3-0 forfeit and just...
Somebody actually suggested, Scotty, that we should just play an eligible player and take the 3-0 loss.
And this is just... do you know what? The realization is actually a little bit heartbreaking because, like, this is not how I brought up. This is not my personal mentality. This is not my mentality of following Rangers. I've never given up on anything in my life, but like it's actually it's bad. It's really, really bad at the moment. And to face a Napoli team, and who knows? Look, it's 90 minutes of football. Oh, I'm talking myself around again. It's 90 minutes of football, and anything can happen. But we also know that what isn't going to happen. But we'll see.
Yeah, and look at this, just doing all Martin's chores for him while he's not on the pod. We spoke to Martin. He did just pop in really quickly in the background, Mel. So he is okay. Maybe you're interrupting his movie. He told us we're not allowed to do that. So maybe give it 10 minutes.
We got dogs abuse for that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So final few points then before we wrap up. Another good one from Curry, Brian. Is this the most depressed you've felt about Rangers manager and team? And yes, worse than Pedro and Murty teams. I am there. So would you go down that route? Is it Pedro and the Bush style feeling for you yet? Or because I'm sort of on the wavelength of what Scotty's saying there. Like, even we're going up against Liverpool, that £1 billion worth of players and everything else. So I'm going there thinking, do you know what? If it goes our way, there's a chance here. And I don't feel that with the next game. I just feel like hopeless going into it.
With all due respect, there's no way you can feel this as bad as we are just now compared to what we were summer 2012. I'm sorry. No way. That was the depths of despair. Struggling to get a team to play Brechin away or Peterhead away or whoever it was. That was the depths of despair. That was the lowest of the low. Yes, it's not great just now, but it can't surely be as low as that summer that we had in 2012. That was, wow, didn't even know we had a team to play that week against, I think it was Brechin or Peterhead.
We're not talking about those circumstances.
Yeah.
We're talking
yes,
about...
I know, but he's asking, the question was, is this the most depressed you've ever felt? And I'm like, no, I felt worse.
Football-wise,
it's great, but I felt worse.
Football-wise for me is under Pedro, because even when we got to the semi-final against Celtic and stuff, and every time we play Celtic, you knew we were never going to even get a draw. You knew we were always going to get destroyed, no matter who we turned out. I mean, that was poor.
Okay,
This is bad, but under Pedro was bad. And I remember
Pedro was worse. I'll give cover to that. He's
I, mean,
just
I was only
clarified what he
young,
said,
but
yeah.
I remember John Gregg as manager, Jock Wallace a second time, Alec
Yeah.
Totten being in charge for a few games. And by then we weren't great. I mean, we were finishing third, fourth, but we still got won the Scottish Cup. We remember getting beat by, I think I don't know if it was Aberdeen or Dundee United, maybe the bottom in a couple of seasons when Aberdeen were really good back then under Alec Ferguson. But you were still going to watch Rangers because you still had players that you liked and the players you trusted, like Robert Pritz, Bobby Russell, Davy Cooper, players like that. You can't see anybody in this team even relating to these guys.
No,
I know football's changed differently, but the football's run differently and the players' mentality is different. And I just feel the way the club is going in general, we should be a lot better. We should be a lot better.
Just what Curry said, manager wise, I'll agree. Pedro was far worse, 100%.
Yeah,
I just had a little bit of perspective there of timing as well. Like Pedro inherited serial losers or whatever, and we've been gradually building. But what Gio's done is actually turned
winners to losers.
Yeah, so I think that should not be forgotten in terms of just for debate purposes.
He never really turned winners to losers. We only won one league.
Yeah, but emphatically unbeaten.
Yeah,
I know,
in terms
but
of where we were,
I still say Pedro was worse. Maybe it's just me. I still say. See, I didn't. Alan McCoist was okay to start, but at the end I was wanting him out as well. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't like managers at the end.
Jackson's going to get the final sort of question then for the evening. I'll bring it to each of you. So we'll start with Brian. If we went on a winning run of say 7 games, would you still want Gio gone? My personal opinion is, if the guy keeps winning, then I've got no problem with him being in, regardless of the football. I'll moan about the football, but if we win games, I won't really care at the end of the day. For you, Brian, though, is the bigger issue here that it's a bit too deep-seated now with Gio, and it'll always now be one bad result away from all of the fans turning again?
We're a game a result away from a catastrophe all the time. I just feel there's far too many people's minds made up now. There's far too many lines in the sand. That is it. There's nothing going to change my mind that's going to make this any better. And I just feel it's very, very difficult when the fans turn on you to recover that. I don't actually remember a manager in living history that's managed to recover fans turning against him and then actually winning them back. I don't think it's ever happened. Excuse me. It just gets worse, and to me, it's just simply beyond the point of recovery, and I really don't know. I don't see any recovery from this. And the problem is, as you say, how far to let it go? Is it Napoli? Is it Aberdeen? There's an end point very soon. We just don't know when it is.
Yeah, is that the same for UK? It just managers don't really turn it around once the fans have turned.
It's not even the fans have turned. I think the players have turned a while back, and I think it's time they need to call it. But I don't trust the board. I think they'll call it when it's far too late, or they'll wait to the end of the season. Unless Aberdeen gives a doing and we lose the semi-final, or we get a doing with Celtic again. But I feel they'll leave it long, and I think even the Rangers board now comes down to money. I don't want to call it too quickly, because the quicker they call it, the more money they'll don't want to give him a big payout. Do you know what I mean? I know people say, well, Gio's an ex-Rangers player, he knows how he should walk. Nobody walks away for a job, no, especially when you get a good compensation to leave. So he's never going to walk, doesn't matter who it is. But I think they have to call it. But maybe they won't, because financially they don't have a clue who to replace him.
And Scotty, is it possible? I mean, I don't even think Mourinho has turned it around once the crowd have gone.
Stu, Gio can win the next 7 games, but there'll be no fucker there to see it, because they'll all walk out. It's so fucking boring. He's done.
There we go. He's done. man of few words is Scotty, but he's done in Scotty's eyes. So I think we will leave it there, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. Say this was open to everyone. It's usually a Sunday members show, so if you do like, well, I say like, I mean it's hard to like when you're talking about something so depressing, but if you do enjoy the guys, please consider joining as a member. You can get $1.99 a month. You get 3 member shows. You get access to the Super 6, and everyone has a good laugh, so it's always good. Please hit like and subscribe. We're sponsored as always by Zenith Coins, and we really appreciate that. RR10, if you're interested in any of their fabulous products that Brian has, and he's shown us plenty of times and they look great quality. RR10 at the checkout will get you 10% off your order. So thanks again everyone for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Martin is back tomorrow, I believe, with the phone in, and we've got it all up and working now, so you can all get across and get all your thoughts across, should I say. So lastly, just want to thank Brian, Scott, Care and Scotty. Thank you very much, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And until tomorrow, everyone. Hopefully Martin's going to sort out the intro by then. If he hasn't, ring him up tomorrow and moan about that as well. But we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, guys.